March Madness did not create the 2026 draft class. It just forced more people to finally watch it. That's what I keep coming back to every year. A lot of fans do not really tap into the incoming class until the bracket shows up, the games go national, and a prospect drops 30 with everybody watching. This year was especially useful because we actually got to see most of the board in one place. Not that long ago in 2024, a lot of the most interesting names were split between Overtime Elite, G League Ignite, and international leagues. So people were basically scouting off clips, highlights, and box scores unless they were already deep in the weeds. This time, most of the class got stress tested in public. Some guys held their ground. Some guys helped themselves. Some guys got exposed a little, and some guys got hurt and never really got the chance. And that's what makes this month so fun. March can boost your stock, dent your stock, or at least change how people talk about you. Sometimes one good run can move a player into a different tier. Sometimes one early exit changes whether a guy should stay in school another year. If you aren't subscribed yet, subscribe and tell me which prospect you want next. Because draft talk gets way better once the games start mattering and the excuses start dying. At the top, I still think the same three names drove this class for most of the year. AJ Dybantsa at BYU, Darryn Peterson at Kansas, and Cameron Boozer at Duke. March did not erase that. It just sharpened the conversation. AJ Dybantsa probably had the most unfair exit of this bunch. BYU lost in the round of 64 to Texas, and they were without Richie Saunders after the ACL tear earlier in the year. Texas loaded up on AJ every time he touched the ball. They were blitzing him, trapping him, sending bodies at him in the half court, and still he finished with 35 points and 10 rebounds. He went 12 for 12 from the free throw line, 11 for 25 from the field. And yes, the 5 turnovers are there, but if you watch that game, there just wasn't much he could have done.
Dybantsa going to work, got a size advantage, shoots over Johnson and hits.
He was creating through traffic, splitting traps, trying to manufacture offense on the spot because BYU needed everything from him. That game did not hurt him for me. If anything, it reminded me why he can still go first, second, or third, depending on how the lottery shakes out and what kind of ceiling a team wants to bet on. The motor's loud. The competitiveness is obvious. Once Saunders went down, everybody knew that was AJ's team. BYU was gonna live with him having the ball and die with him having the ball. And he still looked dangerous in the kind of game that swallows a lot of college stars. I still think he's one of the best wing scoring prospects we've seen in years. Maybe since the Kevin Durant conversation for a true top of the draft wing scorer. He's one of the cleanest high-end bets in the class. Darryn Peterson is still my favorite evaluation headache in this draft. And I mean that in a good way. For most of the season, he was my #1 guy because I loved the high school tape at Prolific Prep. He looked like a lead guard who could score from anywhere and still see the floor like a real point. He got off to a good start at Kansas, then the hamstring issues and cramping became a theme all year. Kansas also never felt like a clean fit for him. Too often, the offense turned into Darryn go save us instead of letting him really run the show. Bill Self did not get the most out of that roster, and the spacing did no favors for Peterson.
They'll make a move. Bullseye. Boy, that footwork right.
Kansas beat Cal Baptist with Peterson scoring 28, then lost to St. John's in the round of 32 on a game winner from Dylan Darling. Peterson had 21 points, 4 blocks, 4 rebounds, went 8 of 10 from the line, 5 of 15 from the field, and had 0 assists. The 0 assists are gonna scare some people, but I don't think that tells the full story at all. He was passive early after hitting 2 threes to start, then got more aggressive late. The problem is Kansas just wasn't helping him enough. The shooting around him was shaking, especially in the Big 12 tournament and March. Guys like Marco Jackson, Melvin Council, and Trey White had moments, especially the last two, but too often the help just wasn't there. That season felt like a bad showroom for his playmaking. I still buy the passing, I still buy the vision. It's a little like the Ace Bailey conversation at Rutgers last year where people stared at the raw assist numbers and ignored how often the environment got in the way. And honestly, I believe in Peterson's passing ability a lot more than I believed in Ace's as a prospect. Put Darryn in a cleaner NBA floor-spaced system, and I think way more of his game is gonna breathe. I still think he's gonna be better in the NBA than he looked in college. Then there's Cameron Boozer, who still gives it the safest top-tier case in the class. He was the most decorated freshman of the group, ACC Player of the Year, a real candidate for National Player of the Year, the highest floor of the top 3, even if some teams still talk themselves into the Dybantsa or Peterson because they think the long-term offensive ceiling is a little higher. Duke had a scary opening game against Siena, which not a lot of people expected from a 16 seed. Boozer still finished with 22 points and 13 rebounds, but Siena guarded him really well and played all 5 starters 40 minutes without going to the bench.
Now Duke,
nice pass out of the timeout. Gumba to Boozer, big to big.
Then against TCU, Duke pulled away after a close first half and Boozer finished with 19 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals, and a block in an 81-58 win. He also had the later round resume. He got Duke through the opening weekend, had another huge game in the Sweet 16, and even in Duke's brutal ending, he still looked like an NBA player. That's the Boozer case in one sentence. The lowest amount of projection stress. He's probably the easiest plug-and-play top 3 prospect in the class. Caleb Wilson is a frustrating one because March never really gave him a shot. He was the consensus number 4 prospect for most of the season, then broke his stump in practice in March, needed season-ending injury, missed the ACC tournament, and missed the NCAA tournament. I still think he belongs in that number 4 discussion. The talent didn't disappear. He just lost the exact months where everybody else had a chance to build momentum. The guy who's gained the most momentum for me is Darius Acuff at Arkansas. That's not a hot take anymore. John Calipari's guard track record already makes people pay attention. Derrick Rose, John Wall, Devin Booker, Jamal Murray, De'Aaron Fox, you can keep going. Acuff looks like he's trying to be next on that list. He had 24 points and 7 assists in the first game, then 36 points and 6 assists against High Point in the round of 32 after they upset Wisconsin.
Coach Calipari now going to work with a 3-ball that goes!
That gave him 60 points in his first 2 tournament games, the most ever by a freshman in tournament history at that point. And then he kept it going against Arizona in the Sweet 16. He pushed himself into the kind of conversation where top 4, maybe even top 3, if a team falls in love with the offense. I know the defensive concerns are real. He's undersized compared to what teams keep saying they want from a modern point guard. He's probably 6'2" or 6'3", depending on the shoes. He hasn't looked good defensively this year and he's never making an all-defensive team in the league. I don't even know if the motor on that end will ever get there. But he's such an elite offensive guard prospect that I still think front offices are gonna talk themselves into him. When a point guard looks comfortable creating offense on national television, people move him up fast. A matchup I was really excited for before the Sweet 16 was Kingston Flemings against Keaton Wagler, because that felt like one of those stock check games where both guys could help themselves. Flemings came in as one of the better defensive guard prospects in the class. Wagler came in as one of the better offensive guards. That kind of head-to-head on national TV with an Elite 8 spot on the line tells you a lot about who can rise to the occasion. Flemings did not really move much for me through March. Wagler did. His stock got louder because he kept producing when the stage got bigger. Nate Ahmed is still one of the trickiest projection guys in the class. I saw the same thing a lot of people saw. Huge flashes, real size, real upside as an off-ball shot creator, and a handle that's solid for someone at 6'10". I also saw a lot of passivity. Tennessee beat Miami and Virginia, and I gotta see those games in person in Philadelphia. Against Miami and Ohio, Ahmed went 0 for 3 and scored 0 points in a game Tennessee won with 78 on the board. I came away wondering why Rick Barnes wasn't running more of him because he barely felt involved. Later, we found out about the ankle injury. Then against Virginia, he took 11 shots, went 4 of 11, 1 of 3 from deep, and still got 16 points by going 7 of 8 from the line. He also had a good game against Auburn in the SEC tournament and a rougher one against Vanderbilt. He's still a project for me, and there's upside there. I don't think he's ever an all-star, but I can absolutely understand valuing the size, the shot-making flashes, and the off-ball scoring potential. He's just gonna need work. Michael Brown Jr. is another one where March kinda robbed us. Louisville made the tournament. There was gonna be at least a couple of good stages for him. And then he was out for the round of 32 against Michigan State after Louisville had already beaten South Florida in the first round. Those were real opportunities for him to help his stock. I still think he's a first-round talent, and for some teams, maybe even closer to the top of the round than people realize. He just never got that public moment. LeBaron Philon absolutely helped himself. A lot. I already thought it was smart that he didn't go to the draft last year when he looked more like a fringe first round or early second round guy. Now he looks like a much more serious lottery conversation. Once Aiden Holloway was ruled out for March Madness because of the off-court legal issues, I thought Alabama might get bounced right away by Hofstra. That did not happen. Philon came out and dropped 29 points with 7 assists and 3 steals, stepped up as the #1 option, and looked like an offensive engine. If Alabama had pulled off more, including the upset pass against Michigan, it only would have added more fuel. Either way, he looks like the kind of primary ball handler who's much easier to picture in NBA spacing now than he did a year ago. Axel Lindeborg is the funniest draft debate in the class because every time he plays well, the age concern somehow gets louder and weaker at the same time. He's gonna be 24 in September. That's the first thing every skeptical front office is gonna say. He also just looks like one of the best players in the class right now. He closed the Big Ten season well, had 6 points against Ohio State, 12 against Wisconsin, then 20 against Purdue in the Big Ten title game. In March, he didn't do much against Howard, then exploded for 25 against St. Louis and looked like a man among boys. And he kept stacking good performances after that.
Remaining in this first half. Up top, Lindeborg!
If you're just asking who can hoop today, he looks like a top 10 talent in this draft. That doesn't mean every team will rank him there because ceilings scare people and age scares them even more. But I wouldn't be surprised if a late lottery team or a team just outside it values his win-now ability and talks itself into the obvious question. Do you want the younger mystery box or the older guy who might help your rotation from day one? Braden Burries has helped himself too, even if he hasn't dominated the headlines the way Acuff or Philon have. He did not play great against Iowa State in the Big 12 semifinals, but he had 21 against UCF in the quarterfinals, 21 against Houston in the Big 12 title game, 18 against LIU, and 16 against a respectable Utah State team. If teams believe he can really be a two-way at the NBA level and hold his own defensively, then you can absolutely see why he would become a top 10 pick. He's a solid defender, really good in transition, and the skill set is easy to imagine being useful. There's also some names we just did not get to see enough of in March. Jaden Quainton still didn't really come back for Kentucky. He played only 4 games for him all year after the NIL move from Arizona State, reportedly for around $2 million while recovering from the ACL tear. He returned in January against St. John's, then we basically never saw him again. He didn't play in March Madness, and Kentucky got blown out by Iowa State in the round of 32. Kareem Lopez is another one. He's an international prospect playing in the NBL, so there was no March Madness stage for him. He's already declared for the 2026 draft and still feels like a fringe lottery type of name. Then you have Baylor's 2 projected first-rounders, who did not play in March either because Baylor just wasn't good enough for this year. That was one of the more disappointing team seasons in the country considering the talent level. There are also a few fringe first-rounders and swing guys who really helped themselves or at least gave scouts more to think about. Tyler Tanner at Vanderbilt is one of them. If you watch that near half-court heave at the end, you know exactly what I mean when I say it felt like Gordon Hayward 2.0 for a second. It almost banked in and would have been one of the most ridiculous shots in tournament history. Beyond the near moment, the actual prospect case is interesting. He's small. Vanderbilt lists him at 6 foot. He might be 5'11" or even 5'10" and a half by combine measurements. He's about 175 pounds, but he plays bigger than that. He's athletic and the production is real. Around 19 points. 5 assists, 2.5 steals, 48% from the field, and 37% from three.
Play Sooners by 15. Tanner draws the foul.
He went on a strong run late in the SEC season too, with 34 against Ole Miss and 25 against Tennessee, then kept having good moments in tournament play with 19 against Tennessee, 20 against Florida, 15 against Arkansas, 26 against NC State, and 27 in the Nebraska loss. I think Tanner can be a first-round pick if he declares. But because of NIL money and because the 2027 class looks weak on paper right now, I could absolutely see him going back to school, maybe even transferring, and trying to turn this year's fringe first-round case into next year's lottery case. Ade Mara of Michigan and Dan Swain at Texas both helped themselves too. Coming into March, I thought both might go back to school. I don't really think that anymore. I think both played their way more firmly into the draft. Alex Caravan and Zuby Ejiofor have also been two of the real March winners from the Big East side of things. Caravan is a 4-year player at UConn and one of the better shooters in the class. He had arguably the best game of his career against Mick Cronin's UCLA team in the round of 32. And that kind of veteran shooting always gets more valuable once the games tighten up. Zuby has been climbing for a while, and March helped. The question with him is still what exactly he's at in the next level. Is he a 4? Is he a 5? But I think he's separated himself from that pack of second-round bigs that includes names like Malachi Moreno, Flory Bidunga, Henry Vesar, and Jojo Tugler. His late-season run was strong even before the tournament. 16-point triple-double against Villanova, 23 against Georgetown, 21 against Seton Hall, then a great Big East tournament with 21 against Providence, 20 against Seton Hall, and 18 against UConn. In March, he had a double-double in the first round, then went for 18 points, 9 rebounds, and 4 assists against Kansas. He looks much stronger now in that big man cluster than he did a month ago. And one more thing matters here that people forget all the time. NIL changes the math. Fringe first round and early second round guys now have real financial reasons to go back to school. And that's gonna make some of these return or declare decisions weirder than people expect. My bigger takeaway after all of this is pretty simple. March Madness did not destroy the top of the board. It clarified what kind of bets teams are making. Dybantsa still looks like a wing scorer some team will fall in love with. Peterson still looks better than his college context. Boozer still looks like the cleanest safe star bet. Caleb Wilson lost a chance to build momentum, but not the talent. Acuff made the strongest move. Wagler turned a good year into a louder one. Ament stayed complicated. Michael Brown Jr. lost a real opportunity. Philon probably upgraded himself into a much more serious conversation. Lindeborg kept making the age debate annoying. Burries helped himself. Tyler Tanner, Caravan, and Zuby all gave scouts more to chew on. And then there's the no-show names like Quaintance, Lopez, and the Baylor guys, where you're still projecting more than reacting. That's what this month's for. It doesn't invent talent. It reveals how much of your opinion survives life pressure. So now I want your take. If you had the number 1 pick today, are you picking Dybantsa, Peterson, or Boozer? Or has March pushed somebody else far enough into the conversation that you're rethinking the whole board?